Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of High Velocity Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today we have with us Fredrick Hicks with My Money Banc. Welcome, Fredrick.
Hey, how you doing, Lee?
I am doing well. Before we get too far into things, tell us about My Money Banc. How are you serving folks?
We work with people when it comes to income protection, as well as having a higher degree of financial literacy through our educational workshops. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty out here in the world, and many people are needing and wanting and desiring, are very hungry for learning more about what to do with their money. So we provide that full, complete from start to finish, with education being our focus to help them arrive at that conclusion.
And then what is the conclusion most people are looking for? Is it they want more money? They want to hold on to their existing money?
Well, in essence, some people have that goals and objectives, but from a financial literacy viewpoint, it's more about understanding how their money is growing and how to make the best decisions. Many people right now in today's market have, lost money, but there's a lot of people that's gained money. But there's one component that we all have a commonality with, and that's taxes. So it's not what you earn, it's what you can keep. And that's where the financial literacy comes into play.
Now, does this work for people of all income levels, or is this more suited to people who have a lot of money?
It ties into people because we all have to pay taxes, right? So it doesn't matter what your income producing assets are, whether you're earning $30,000 a year or earning $30 million a year. It's the same discussion. So the playing field is pretty much even in regards to having the discussion. How to drill down on specifics of your circumstance is another whole point altogether. So you can't, know that until you actually engage someone in that discussion. And prescription before diagnosis is malpractice.
So then what are some of the questions you like to ask at the beginning of a relationship to see where they are at, in terms of needs?
Well, we use a unique software, and that software identifies conceptually how people see their money. A lot of times, if you're looking at a spreadsheet, it can be ambiguous at best. But when you're looking at what we use is tanks to be able to see your money in action and how it's working, and when is the best time to take withdrawals from maybe a qualified account, and how to maybe be more tax advantaged maybe in another account. Those discussions usually lend itself to question after question after question that enhances someone's financial literacy.
Now, how far along are they in their kind of financial life cycle before they get learn about your service and what you're up to? Is this something that's better suited if you're nearing retirement, or is it better?
In my business, typically we get and work with our nonprofit, and we work with HR departments in order to bring the financial literacy straight to the employer. And meet the Department of Labor ERISA 404 requirements, and get in there and speak to the employees about what interests them in a more neutral format. And if it turns out that they need additional help, they'll let us know. And then we get more into that discussion of what their specifics are and their specific needs are. So it's not so much age or income or anything. It's really about having a discussion. So I don't put any limitations on having a discussion, no more than you would if you met someone in the grocery store. It's just whatever your problems are, I want to speak to that and offer a solution.
And then you mentioned that your service is mostly education. If it comes to, if their need is to find an expert, do you help them find that expert?
If I am not the person that they need, I always will refer them out to someone that might be more specific to their unique needs. Namely, I kind of stay in my lane and stay to financial advisory. I may know a little bit about a particular topic, but it's just like a surgeon. Just because you are a doctor doesn't mean you can perform brain surgery. So it does require to have that grocery store concept of where I have a network of individuals that might be better at it. I might need to refer you out because your needs are so unique that it requires less of a general understanding, but more specificity. And if that's the case, we're here to help.
And then when you're working with somebody and you get to see what their objectives are and the outcome they desire, and then and is there any kind of when it comes to taxes and an employee that's working somewhere, is there some low-hanging fruit that you see them missing out on, like time and time again? Any common mistake that people tend to make when they're an employee?
The common mistake is predicting what the future is, trying to have a crystal ball. You need to be able to have a big picture view. So I always tell people, if what you believe is true turns out not to be true, when do you want to know? Well, most people tell me right now. And that is how I start the conversation, because I'm asking people that if what you know to believe is true, then if I come alongside of you and give you some other things to think about, you have a choice. You can either ignore what I've just said to you, or you can get yourself a bigger box. So I try to ask people to open your minds up to other opportunities that might exist, because when I met you, you had what we call a circle of wealth. But what if we could do better? Is that worth having an engaging discussion and to see what's really working behind the scenes? Most people will say, you know what, you have a good point. I do have some serious questions I'd like to ask. And if you're saying it's based on education, well, that's worth listening to.
Now, do you find that in your work that if you were to kind of look at the whole spectrum of people that are in America and they have varying degrees of wealth, the people who have the most wealth tend to have multiple revenue streams of income, and then the people who don't have a lot of wealth tend to only have one or just a few revenue streams. Do you find that?
I find that all the time, but what I find that is that they might not be using their money in the most efficient manner. I mean, money efficiency is really the key. I say again, it's not what you have or what you've accumulated, it's how much of it that you can keep. So you might be a high earning individual. You might be a middle of the road or lower end of the road income earning individual. But if I can show you how to use every dollar twice, is that worth the discussion? I would hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that people are just curious on how you would be able to do that for them. And is your service, when you start working with someone and it goes beyond education, is this a service that is done for you service, or is this you're giving them the information, they do it themselves?
Some parts of it is required, and I call that the savings efficiency side of it. It's required from you. The other part of it, the guidance, as I call it, the financial GPS, me coming alongside of you. You're driving, imagine you're driving the car and I'm riding shotgun with you, and you're going to run into traffic and detours and, potholes in the road. And it might come a time that you get weary. Well, give me the wheel for that short period of time and let me drive the car to soon pass it back over to you to finish the journey. So it's parts in each different part of that journey. There's a key point that I'm going to have to step in and take the wheel. And there's other times that you're going to have to take the wheel because I can't do it without you. So what I try to find is that happy balance. And that's what the engaging conversation is all about. It's about discovering how much skin in the game do you want to put in, and what do you need me to do to help you on that journey to actually succeed and make it to retirement.
Now, from having done this a minute or so, can you share kind of your favorite story about how you helped someone make it to the next level and get that kind of successful retirement, or that the successful use of their money? You don't have to obviously name names, but just tell us kind of where they started and where they ended.
Well, I like the stories that big things start from small beginnings. I like the stories whereas you are an individual, maybe earning 45,000 a year. You like to improve upon your lifestyle, but you find that there are so many things pulling at your ability to generate and save money, and that you sit down and you puzzle your brain all the time about, your obligations, your bills. When an emergency happens, the monies you have saved, you have to always spend that savings and start all over again, and you struggle with it. Well, that's most Americans. And it happens even with your more affluent, just, bigger, more money, more problems. So what I would say is that my favorite stories always come from someone who doesn't understand, but has the motivation to want to know more and will put the skin in the game to learn more and work with me to take their savings to a higher degree by teaching them the best way for wealth creation. And it all centers around financial literacy, is understanding how money works. Well, if I look at any specific story, every story has different degrees. But if I look at the basis of what I'm telling you right now, it's all about how much desire that person has in improving their financial future. And how long do you want to keep robbing from your retirement with trying to meet your obligations today when the standard of living is constantly going up, inflation is reality, and taxes potentially has the highest potential right now of going higher. So what's your plan for the future? What's your plan? And all I want to do is hear your strategic plan so that I can, again, come alongside of you as a financial GPS and help you make it to the end of the journey.
Now, why do you think that people don't plan their income kind of more effectively? What is it really just a lack of education? Are they not aware that there's a thing called inflation that, takes your money away, or there's a thing called taxes that takes some of your money away? Is it just a lack of awareness? Is it a lack of skill or role models? Like, why do you think that so many Americans really struggle in this area?
I think many people struggle in it because it is lack of financial literacy, but more importantly, I think that people get used to a standard and they accept that standard and they accept their position. So they want to know more, but they choose to kind of stay in their box, just pay my taxes, standard of living, might be going up, but don't worry, we'll make it through. We'll trug along. We'll do all kind of other things to generate additional revenue. We'll find a way, when they could potentially have a better strategy. I tend to equate it to golf. And if you play golf, or any sports for that matter, I kind of think of it this way. Everyone knows Tiger Woods. And I believe, in my belief system, that Tiger is one of the best golfers out here. But if I had a choice between Tiger Woods' swing and his club, I'm going to always pick his swing, because it doesn't matter how or where you give him or where he finds a club. He can beat you with your clubs, with my clubs, and everybody's clubs. But he's perfected his swing. So if you take club and replace that with the word product, and take the word swing and replace it with the word strategy, you must have a strategy before you pick your product. And that is where I find most people fall flat. You cannot buy a product and then match it with a strategy. You must identify the strategy and then match it to the product that's going to help you get to the end of that journey. So I always tell people it's two types of financial advisors. There's financial advisors that can take your money and invest it, which often comes at more risk to get a higher return. Or there's financial advisors like me that take the money in which you currently have and show you how to use it more efficiently. So if you're looking for that, and hopefully the listeners are looking for that type of financial advisor, because typically that financial advisor is going to be able to show you both sides of the spectrum, but you're going to be tax advantaged over the whole life of that strategy. That might lend itself to a good discussion. Wouldn't you agree, Lee?
Absolutely. You got to have with the right partner, you can do anything. I mean, that's my belief. Now, when you're talking to people about kind of getting in the weeds a little bit about maybe some of the folks out there, they're worried about their own financial situation, and in the back of their mind, they're worrying about their parents' situation. The aging parents is a real issue for a lot of folks, and that it's something that maybe their folks didn't prepare for properly, and then it's kind of on the kids some of the time. Is there any strategies regarding aging parents that might mitigate some of the risk or at least eliminate some surprises down the road?
Well, I'm living that right now, Lee. I am the caretaker for my mother. And it is a burden, as they say, failure to plan is a plan to fail. In both my parents' situations, they did not plan for the inevitability of living longer. So I have a very close relationship and relatable story for those people that do have aging parents. And my heart goes out to you if that's the case. But the only thing you can do for those aging parents at this point is to not make the same mistakes. And the same mistakes is just assuming that, don't worry, things are going to work out differently for me when healthcare costs are rising every single day. Doesn't matter how much money you have, one major medical situation can wipe out a person's estate. And many people don't realize that Medicare does not cover custodial care or skilled nursing care. It doesn't. So at the end of the day, you have to plan for the inevitability of outliving your money or living too long. But there is an answer. The answer is not necessarily going out and trying to get an expensive long-term care policy to take care of those needs. It may be simply some other beneficial ways of achieving that goal without breaking the bank. Again, not to get into the weeds on, what those things are. It's mainly an educational discussion and to learn more about what your particular needs are. But if your parents are aging and they're in a situation where they're healthy enough and they are financially capable of meeting the needs, then you might want to consider looking at some other options that might lend itself to you not robbing from your future in order to maintain their obligations, because you want them to not be destitute. And if they do pass away, you want them to leave this earth in dignity. So there are ways of being able to do that. But it's really a discussion based on what you're trying to accomplish, where are those family members at this time in their life, health-wise, and what any current diagnoses that may exist.
And this is a conversation you should be having with your parents sooner than later, right?
I would recommend it if there's nothing in place before age 60. Okay. However, even if you have it at that point, that may not be a viable answer, but it might be an answer to you indirectly because you may be younger and you know better now. You know better for your own family. You may have to look at some options that might not be exactly the way you see things, which is my case. I did not see my parents struggling the way they are, but I'm luckily enough, I'm in a position to be able to help financially. If you're not in a position to help financially, then these are some talking points that need to be had. Doesn't mean that there's solutions at the end or a rainbow at the end. It means that it might be something that you want to prepare individually for so that you don't have to follow in those same footsteps.
And it goes back to your earlier point. You got to get the strategy right. The tactics down the road are less important if you got the wrong strategy.
Absolutely, Lee. You hit it spot on.
Now, if somebody wanted to learn more about My Money Bank and get a hold of you or somebody on your team, what's the coordinates, website, and social media links for you guys?
Simply go to www.mymoneybank.com. That's mymoneybank.com. You can also reach out to us on our 800 number, which is 888-774-6690. That number again is 888-774-6690.
Well, Fredrick, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
I appreciate you offering me the opportunity to speak to your audience.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on High Velocity Radio.